The Ryan and Rush Show is brought to you by Vision Homes. If you're looking to build a home in North Central West Virginia, visit askvisionhomes.com. Vision Homes, building you a house you're proud to call home. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ryan and Rush Show. But don't take our word for it. Take Coach Nealon's.
Hi, this is Coach Don Nealon, and you're watching the Ryan and Rush Show. Please subscribe.
Welcome in to another edition of the Ryan and Rush Show, your source for West Virginia sports. College football is officially here. Week 1 kicks off, and of course, Penn State returning to Morgantown. A lot of anticipation around that game. Big noon kickoff's going to be here Saturday at noon, and so we thought we have the perfect guest to come on, the one that's making sure that the blue lots open at 7 a.m., and you're all ready to go for that big noon kickoff. Athletic director and reoccurring guest of the Ryan and Rush Show, Wren Baker. Wren, how are you doing? Are you keeping busy?
I am. And people keep asking me if we're ready, and I always tell them I'm ready, but that never really has an impact on the game. So I don't make any plays out there, but yeah, I think our staff is as ready as we can be. We know it's going to be a incredibly electric atmosphere. Anytime you have that many people coming into town, we know there's going to be some logistical challenges, but we're prepared for those. I know all of our external parties. We've had several meetings talking through that with police and EMS and everybody who touches our game day experience, and everybody is ready to go. It's unusual because we don't have a warm up. We don't have an FCS game on the schedule first. We go right into the big show.
Yeah, right into big noon kickoff. But Red, let's talk about. We'll get to the game here in a little bit and the season that's coming up. But I want to ask you, the summer is in the rearview mirror. Were you able to get away for a little bit? And what does the summer for an AD consist of?
Yeah, it's used to it was a little bit slower. Now with everything that's changed in college athletics the last 4 or 5 years, your summertime's really spent trying to adjust and get ready for what has been just monumental shifts in the model and the way that you do things. And so, didn't get a ton of time, but was able to take the family to Florida for a week and had to do a few Zooms and meetings and stuff, but that's fine. If you're sitting by the ocean, it's a little easier to do a Zoom that way. And then I actually took Heather and the girls to New York City for 3 or 4 days, and they stayed in Times Square. We went to some shows, and I wanted to do something here in the Northeast in one of the main cities that just give my girls a little different experience and let them culturally grow a little bit. And so we were able to do that, and then we did a few trips over the weekends just here in West Virginia and enjoyed some of the beautiful sights and things there is to do here. One of them we did was actually the zip line out at Adventure, West Virginia, that the university owns. I didn't even know that existed. We went out there and had an absolute great time. And I hear they do it in the fall, and they have nighttime zip lining, which I want to go back and try that. So, but just, we really had a great time getting in and around the state too.
Yeah, because once that season hits, it hits. So you definitely have to take advantage of the summertime, the family time, because, they may not be seeing you too much till, around the springtime. But speaking of summertime, you kind of alluded to it just now with everything that's gone on with college athletics the past 4 or 5 years. Obviously, everyone's familiar with NIL, transfer portal, of course, college expansion, the hot topic of the summer, especially when you're looking for storylines. What's something you can tell us with college expansion, especially maybe as it relates to the Big 12, that maybe your average fan or, isn't necessarily put in the headlines? Like, is there deeper to this, or is this still kind of like the wild, wild west?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly right now there's a lot of still instability, partly because of just the transfer portal being like it is, the NIL situation being like it is. Just people. I think college administrators, both on the university side and athletics side, and as well as coaches, understand we're headed to a different model, and there's going to be some compensation and revenue share. And so that's not the problem. The problem is in pro sports that's very heavily regulated, and we're in an environment right now that's completely and totally unregulated. And so there's stories every day of promises that aren't kept, things that are told to players that don't happen. And we really work hard to be in tandem with Country Roads Trust to try to ensure that whatever that we're meeting the expectations and any promises that happen. But my anticipation is that as the proposed settlement works its way through the process, if it gets approved, that we'll have a much more regulated environment, and that'll be some people are trying to paint that like that's unfair to student athletes. They're going to get more than they're getting now, and it'll be coming through the institutions, which are going to be much more reliable than a lot of these outside collectives that are run by people, I think, with the best of intentions, but they're not run by people that necessarily understand inflow and outflow of cash and commitments and how that all comes together. And when you talk about just expansion of conferences, I think that every conference is always looking at ways and markets and situations that would better position them. But one thing I think that our fans should be really excited about is, in the Big 12's really in terms of resources, which 9 times out of 10, the team spending the most money wins, right? And I mean, it's almost like politics. And so every other conference has big spenders and people who are at the bottom of the food chain. The Big 12, there's not much of a delta between the biggest budgets and the smallest budgets. They're pretty in there tight. So I think what that's going to make is a conference that week in and week out, the games are going to be as competitive, if not more competitive, than any other conference in the country.
America's conference. It's the conference of the middle class. I can't wait for this new Big 12. But Ren, it was a heck of a year for West Virginia athletics in 2024, 2023, going back to that fall. One of the big highlights in the last team to finish playing was our baseball program. Coach Mazey capped off a heck of a career, got the team to the Super Regional in North Carolina, lost 2 tough one-run games. As we transition over to the Coach Saban's era, just your overall thoughts on just the last year where Coach decided he was going to step down. We were going to hand it over to Coach Saban's, and just the state of the program.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to brag on Coach Mazey and what an unbelievable and incredible job he did building a program over time. And it really, baseball probably doesn't get the same notoriety that other sports do, but the job he did with our baseball program would be comparable to what like a Bill Snyder did with Kansas State football. I mean, he took a program that did not have much momentum and just completely altered the trajectory of it. That was of all the things that come across my desk the first year, and there were several. I think the one that threw me for the biggest loop was that one because we'd had a great year. Randy and I had been talking about ways to enhance and grow the program, but he had always been honest with the role that Coach Saban's played in building the program and how much he entrusted him to it. And and he had kind of indicated that whenever it was time for him to step aside, he would love to see Coach Saban's have an opportunity. Generally, I'm not a fan of coach in waiting type situations. I just think it lends itself to tension in and around the program. And if somebody is good enough that you would make them coach in waiting, then they can fight it out when the job is actually open. But in this case, there was a real offer on the table for Coach Saban's, one I think he was probably leaning towards taking to start his head coaching career. And so ultimately we made a decision to create a transition plan that everybody felt good about. And I think that made it seamless for the student athletes. I think it rewarded Coach Saban's for the role that he had played in building the program and his effort. I think it gave Randy peace about walking away on his terms and feeling really good about the direction of the program. And ultimately, I think it's put us in a place where we were able to retain in a day and time where the portal takes so many during a coaching transition. We were able to keep our core group intact. And so I'm really proud of the way that transition occurred and really excited about Coach Saban's. He really he's a great baseball coach, has done a great job here of recruiting and growing players. but he also really gets the donor piece and the outreach piece. I have more people that will tell me they got a note from him or a text from him, or he said a bunch of people signed JJ Weatherholt baseballs right before the draft, like just things like that that I didn't ask him to do necessarily. But he understands the value of keeping the relationships that Randy built, but also growing new ones and enhancing the ones that we have.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you. It usually is weird when you have that coach in waiting, but I think this was the exception, and it was done with such grace and class that it really worked out well. But I understand where you're coming from in terms of that model. So from one kind of end of an era to start of a new to another one, Coach Kellogg for the women's basketball program finished his first year, did an unbelievable job with that team. Really looking forward to what they have in store for this coming year. Obviously, it took a couple interesting whistles against a certain Iowa Caitlin Clark led team to knock them out, but incredible work that they've done. Obviously, Coach Kellogg being one of your first hires here at West Virginia and paying off almost right away. Your expectations for Coach Kellogg and that program going into year two?
Yeah, I think that referee crew may be inducted into the Iowa Sports Hall of Fame at some point. Um,
You
yeah,
sound
he's Coach Kellogg's a great coach, great person, and I knew that about him. Right, I had hired him in Division II a few years before. I ran him through a pretty rigorous process. I think he probably at times during that process was like, "Dude, we know each other. What are we doing here?" But the majority of his career had been in a different part of the country, and so me being new here, I was still trying to figure out to make sure that I understood West Virginia and what it took to win, and to be able to recruit here and to be able to build a program here. And I wanted to make sure that he did as well. And so I definitely leaned a lot on our staff. I had a a committee put together for that search, and I had people that had longer history here than I did. But he surfaced at the top of that search, and I think he's not only done a great job coaching that team, and you guys know basketball. He is a heck of a basketball coach and has a system he's committed to and believes in and sells players on. But I think he and his family have done a great job of really jumping into being West Virginian and loving it here. And he had one of his kids won state. His son
Mm-hmm.
won a state championship. And his daughter was state runner up, and so I think it's been a really great experience for them. And he's done a great job, and that team should. I mean, they should have another great year. They return a lot of players, especially Jordan and JJ, two great guards, and so I think they're poised to be very, very competitive again.
And Ren, there's so many successes. Unfortunately, not every program was a success last year from a wins perspective. The program closest to me, because of my time with the athletic department, the basketball program, it's no secret it was a tough year, and Josh Eilert and his staff did the best they could under the circumstances. Coach DeVries comes in. This is your next hire. They had their foreign tour. Can you just speak to first just the job that Josh and his staff were able to do in a tough time during this great program? And then second, just how it's been so far for Coach DeVries in his first, 5-6 months on the job?
Yeah, I can't say enough for Coach Eilert, and he's over the course of the year that we worked together, a really, really dear friend, and I think the world of him. I knew that was going to be a really tough coaching job, because we had pretty much a new roster, and there wasn't really a culture and team chemistry between the kids, and you throw them into an upheaval of sorts. Josh, as he's getting the job, the portal is reopened. Those kids are being recruited by other people. He's having to re-recruit them, and so. I just think it was. I'm not sure that anybody could have come in and, in terms of wins and losses, made that successful. But what he did do is stabilized us and got us through the year. And we had some great moments, right? I mean, we had the wins over Texas and Kansas here that were thrilling. It wasn't, by any stretch a successful season overall win loss wise, but I think all of Mountaineer Nation owes him and those coaches a deal of gratitude for playing the best hand that they could with what they were dealt. And so, but Coach DeVries has hit the ground running. Really, he's just you all. I think you both have had a chance to meet him. There's just a substance to him and a realness to him. Like there's not a lot of necessarily salesmanship or sizzle or over the top evangel type of a personality. But when you see him on that court, it's high energy. He is a great technical coach. He gets after guys that need to be got after, but he also is an encourager. And I think he's really a person that the more that West Virginia fans and alums and people who follow the program get to know him, the more they're going to really enjoy him. I think the team had a great time in Italy. I didn't go. I'm in trouble with Mrs. Baker about that because she really wanted to go, but I just felt like with everything going on in college athletics and all the stuff that we're dealing with in terms of having to prepare potentially for that house settlement, I didn't think I could take that much time to go over there. But I think they had a great time in Italy. Competition on those foreign tours isn't great, but it seemed like they grew every game and got better. And so I'm excited to see them play. I mean, we're a little bit undersized, but man, when I've seen them practice, they play incredibly hard. They move the ball well. They shoot the ball well. They guard. We just got to compensate for maybe being undersized at times.
So we just talked about 3 coaches that you've recently hired or hired kind of within this past year here. One coach you extended, obviously now transitioning over to football, in Neil Brown. Take us behind the scenes a little bit, because I know those business negotiations, they're a tough thing to do, because you never want anything to be personal, but you got to keep business. You have a program to run. You have to do it within budget. And so sometimes you have to bring up, tough things in the room, like, hey, you did a good job last year, but there were these kind of other years that were a little bit of a struggle. And while there's high hopes and we believe that Neil Brown's really starting to come around to being a good coach for West Virginia, and we hope builds a consistent year here, and we have our next coach for the next 10 to 20 years. Whether he wants to do that, we'll see there. But take us behind the scenes of what that negotiation is like and how it worked out for both sides.
Yeah, it actually was. He and I were pretty aligned. It wasn't a lot of back and forth on it. I think he appreciated the patience that was shown, not just by me, but the university the year before. He knew that. Listen, one thing about West Virginia, you don't get to hide from the chatter and
Yeah.
like it's everywhere you go, right? And so there are no distractions. So I think he knew some of the angst that was out there, so I'll just say this: from the time that I have arrived here, I spent a lot of time around football, a lot of time with him. I believe in what he's doing, and so he and I were aligned in terms of he felt like it was important, and I understood this, that given all of the speculation the year before about his job status, that we do an extension to quiet that down. But he wasn't trying to, gouge us for a bunch more money or anything else. He wanted to put more resources into the program. You ultimately saw where he took a pay cut. I tried to talk him out of that. I was worried about the message that would send, but he really wanted to show people that he had skin in the game, that he was wanting to put money there. We had already carved out some money to try and increase our assistance pool and stuff, but he wanted to. That was something that he really wanted to do, and so it was a conversation over a few days of what would this look like? How do we do it? How's this going to play out publicly? But it really wasn't a back and forth on not seeing things the same. And so I think people around the country, and certainly people that follow the way that those deals usually go, probably assume that was a lot of intense negotiating, but it really wasn't. I think he and I are pretty well aligned in how we see the world. He knew, and even though this house case wasn't near this far along, I have been telling the coaches since I got here, like, a revenue share concept is coming. That's unavoidable. That's going to happen. I might have said that on you guys' show last year,
Mm-hmm.
but So he knew I'm being very careful about overextending in any area, just because I feel like we need as much flexibility in terms of our revenues and our capital to compete in this new environment where you're going to have a certain amount to share with student athletes. And he agrees with that. He understands that. And so I think that went really well, and it speaks to really his character, but his commitment to this program and his understanding of how important it is to have good people around him.
And Ren, I'm going to ask a follow up question on that, because last year when you were on the show, you spoke about the culture was good over there. The wins just weren't, and luckily we got a couple bounces that didn't go our way 2-3 years ago, went our way last year, and we got to 8-4, 9-4 if you include the bowl game, and most importantly, they were able to keep the core of the roster intact. They're not revamping the whole roster like a lot of these other teams have to do. You were able to bring back a guy like Garrett Green, Jaheim White, CJ Donaldson, and most importantly, those big horses on the offensive line.
Yep.
Just speak to being able to keep your core intact with the NIL, the new day and age we're in, but also I think it's imperative that you have a good culture where guys want to stay while getting the NIL.
Yeah, so I would point to probably two things. One is the continued growth of Country Roads Trust and NIL opportunities for our student athletes. That there's no denying that that's a big part of it. But also, I think our football staff, to your second part, has done a really good job of building a culture. And I actually heard a stat yesterday. John Chambers is in town, and you guys are probably familiar with John Chambers. He's a WVU alum, one of the most famous and well-known CEOs in the history, best-selling author, all those things. And he funds the Climbing Hires program in football, so they have their fifth quarter program that's kind of life development for everybody. Then that Climbing Hire program, that program in particular, you have to apply to. You have to, and they do some incredible things, have some incredible experiences. But that program has about a couple dozen kids or so, and they've been to Europe and they've been to all of these places, and they submit business plans and all those things. But I think of the 20 or so young men in that program, none of them transferred out. Now, is that program the only reason they're not transferring out? No, but I think what they understand is there's an investment here in them that goes beyond just football, and I think that's important, and I think that's really a credit to Neil, because that's his vision and concept, and certainly to John Chambers and some of our donors, but also all those coaches over there. The Country Roads Trust and NIL is a big part of it, right? But I think we get that kind of hometown discount a lot of times when those people know they're going to be treated right, they're going to be developed, and that people care about them, because just about anybody could go in the open market and find a little better deal, right? And so, especially as it gets later in the recruiting cycle and teams get desperate. And so it really is a combination of making sure that people know that they're going to have a great experience here.
Last year on the show, we kind of talked about the fan experiences, ticket prices, promotions, that sort of thing. We saw with the spring game this year that you could register online. It wasn't $10 anymore, which we thought was great. Pack the spring game when you can, get that optimism going early and often, as they like to say. But we also discussed, ticket prices were a little high past couple years, especially kind of when you saw those student sections. Students would claim tickets, but then maybe have a little too much fun tailgating, or for whatever reason not show up. And it's like there are people out there that would maybe not want to pay $200, but could at least pay a little bit of money, fill out that experience at Milan Puskar Stadium. So what can fans expect this year in terms of prices, promotions, the whole fan experience for 2024, and then what's also kind of in the works for long term?
Yeah. Listen, we're cognizant and intentional about our pricing and our price points, and even as the athletic director, I don't know that every AD is, but every year when they want to bring me concession prices, for instance, I always want to see what every ACC school in our region, what the other Big 12 schools charge. And so, the article that I can't remember who was actually a gambling website, I think, that released on the most expensive game days puts us up there at second, and that's just not true. They have everything that we have in there. They have priced 20% higher than it actually is, and and then they pick the ticket price that's the highest. Um, but I understand that when you have a state where there's a lot of blue collar workers and your fan base is made up of a lot of blue collar folks, like it's an investment to go to games. My daughters want me to take them to Taylor Swift, and when I look at those prices, I balk every time. And so I understand that people have to make those propositions. We always try to make sure that we have tickets that are affordable, and we don't just price gouge people. So, for instance, I think the cheapest ticket to get into Penn State is $100 from if you buy from us. Now we sold out, and we had very few single game tickets. Most of those you had to buy mini packs and stuff.
Mhm.
But those tickets are selling for 3 times that on the open market, and we knew that they would, right? Like we had brokers coming to us offering us more money than what we were selling them for if we would funnel them through them. And so we're intentional to try to keep that affordable. But in this new world, I talk frequently about where our budget sits in the Big 12, and when you take out debt service and travel costs, is last in terms of free operating capital. And so everybody wants you to compete. If we were to win the Big 12 and make it to the CFP, people are going to want me to retain Neil. They're going to want me to retain coaches. Well, that money has to come from somewhere. Like I don't
Mhm.
have a magic wand. Like, so you sit in here and you say, okay, if we put another $1 million in football, here are the buckets that we can draw some of that money from. And you start to pencil that out, and that's really the way that works. It's no different than your home budget. I have to, if I create an expense here, I have to create a revenue there. And so we do have a lot of conversations. I'm always adamant that our most affordable seats that we leave affordable. We've not adjusted the price on those at all since I've been here. And we won't. And the last couple of years, they've come to me wanting to raise the price of beer, which I think was $8 for a domestic beer, and I've pushed back on that because I feel like that's a particular one that gets people riled up. But but I understand it. Like, but what I always try to have people do, and you guys go to other sporting venues, is go to other sporting venues and compare. Like we have secret shoppers that come to our games and go to other games and will send us a report on everything from the traffic inflow, outflow, how it was getting into the gates, the concession prices, all of restrooms, was there toilet paper, was there hand towels, all of those things. And we get grades on that. And so we try to make sure that we're doing a good job. We spend a lot of time on it. It's not perfect, but we do everything that we can. And then you try to do things like the lights. I mean, we knew we need to replace lights. It was one cost to just go back with white lights, but to be able to do the light shows and stuff like that cost a lot more. But that was for fan experience, and you're just trying to stay fresh, keep people interested, keep the games lively and fun, and so we spend quite a bit of time doing that. And you guys might have seen we've got I think 5 concession stands that are going to have fan friendly pricing this year, where there's a very
Nice.
affordable package. I think it's like $3 or so, maybe $3.50 for a drink, $3.50 for popcorn, and maybe like $3.50 for a hot dogs. And so that's not at every stand. You got to, but there's a stand in every quadrant of the stadium. So those are things that we try to do just to make sure that we keep that our fan base is able to have access. Because one thing that's unique here is the market share we have in the state, and we can't take that for granted. We can't price those people out, and so that's something that we really do keep an eye on.
And Ren, I get to rephrase this question from what I asked you last year. Last year, I asked you what you were looking forward to the most being the AD at West Virginia. Now that you've gone through a year of the cycle, you've been to different parts of the state, whether it's Beckley, Parkersburg, Wheeling, Charleston, you name the town. What's what just reflecting back on your first year, what makes this West Virginia University AD job so special and unique?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 things that I really have taken away from my first 18 months here. One is the connection that the state has with the athletic department and the university. They really are seen as one and the same. When we are winning games, I think people's outlook on everything about life is better. You know, we were having a branding discussion a few days ago, and you know, I said, if you think about it, as I've traveled the state, I think I see the Flying WV 2 or 3 to 1 over the state flag. I mean, the Flying WV is the state flag, and I got corrected by like 5 people in the room. Says probably 8 to 1, 9 to 1, 10 to 1, and so that is unique and special, and it makes having this job special. Now, when we recruit people to come here, I always tell them it is a great privilege. It's also a great responsibility. You know, you feel an extra weight because you understand how much it means to people. I think the second thing is just the natural beauty that's here. I've had some of the most incredible. I'm not a big picture taker. I have more pictures of sunsets and hilltops and rivers and waterfalls across this state. Just because I you know, I don't want to forget it, but also send it to people because I'm just a big believer that people, if they give West Virginia a chance when they're taking vacations, they're going to fall in love with it. And I see tourism as one of the ways to prosperity for our state. And then the third thing is just the warmth of the people. Like I've had a chance now to, you know, I don't know that I've been in every county, but I've traveled certainly to a lot of them and been in every part of the state, and I've not been anywhere where I haven't been made to feel very welcome, and people have just been incredibly kind, and you know, you appreciate that when you go to a new place, but certainly when you bring a family to a new place, you want them to feel that, and Heather and the girls definitely have.
Wren, thank you so much for coming on. We know you're a busy guy, got meetings to get to. Just thank you. We look forward to hopefully seeing you at the parking lot at 7 a.m. A week from Saturday. And well, I guess this is a little later than we're releasing. On Saturday, we'll see you in the parking lot. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for this university. We love having you here. It is our pleasure to just see your work, everything that you've done. We understand that, you know, if you do your job well enough, you may not be here forever. And we accept that. We're just so happy that you're our athletic director. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate how much you love your school. And listen, let's have a great time on Saturday, and let's enjoy it. If we're able to finish that one with more points on the board than the Nittany Lions, it'll be a wild night in Motown. So I'll be at home watching it on social media. I will not be in the streets. So
say that now.
Yeah.
I can't promise you I won't be. So I'll be ready for you, Wren.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Wren.
You, Wren. Go Mountaineers.